Well, this is your, and we a my heart is pumping because I'm so excited. He is the president, the Brooklyn Borough President. I wish Brooklyn Borough President, and the mayor of the third largest city of the U.S. If we could take it out of the bigger city, and that is Brooklyn. And he has done something that we're exploring here, health and planet. He has done something to turn his own life around, and he is doing so much to turn our children's and grandchildren's lives into a healthier direction in his function. And I'm just
Thank
so
you.
thrilled.
Thank you. Real kind.
Welcome.
My heart is beating. I'm excited about you being here as well. So, mutual pitter patter.
Awesome. So, Brooklyn Borough President Eric Adams. It's a long story, and we don't have much time. How you got here and how you got to look so brilliantly healthy and beautiful, and you were raised in a family of 6 children, so that must have given you some stamina, some
Yes. So true. So true. 4 boys and 2 sisters. And just an amazing mother who never surrendered. Her most famous quote, "Don't let anything that is not human defeat you, and if it's human, only a tie."
Yeah, and there's this quote, we never lose, even if we don't win, we gain experience.
And that is so true. And I think oftentimes we focus so much on outcomes and not the journey that we experience during the outcome. And that is really my story, being borough president or any other things that I look forward to doing. It's about the people on the way. If I wasn't borough president, I would not know you. I would not know so many other great people.
Yeah.
And so it's about the experience.
Yeah.
The journey.
Your father was a butcher.
Yes.
So there must have always been meat in the house.
Oh.
Were your friends
Yes.
envious?
Yes, without a doubt. Because we grew up in South Jamaica, Queens, after we left Brooklyn. And there was a culture of your status in society was based on your ability to have meat as the center of your diet. And we defined ourselves through did you have meat? If someone came to your house for dinner or for lunch or breakfast, and you didn't have sausages for breakfast, if you didn't have ham sandwiches for lunch, if you were missing that steak or that chicken for dinner, really was an indicator that you were of a lower class. And so built into our entire psyche was meat.
Yeah. So the big question is, where did you first come across the concept of a meatless diet?
Out of a dark place, a dark medical place, when I was experiencing type 2 diabetes, I was surprised to know that I had it. I was one of the 7 million Americans that went undiagnosed. And when I learned that I was at the later stage. I was receiving serious nerve damage in my hands and feet. I lost sight in my left eye, and I was losing it in my right as well. The prognosis was really terrible. That I was going to go down this dark path of medication, insulin, metformin, medicine for ulcer I had at the time, high blood pressure, and all of the other uh, medicine that you need for chronic diseases. And it was in that dark place that I saw a light through medical professionals.
Oh, so it was actually medical professionals who suggested to you to reduce your meat intake?
You got to put that with an asterisk, because I went to my 5 doctors here in the city, and they all said the same thing, that there was nothing I could do. It was hereditary. It was my food. And it wasn't until I did my own science, and that science was going to Google and Googling reversing diabetes. I always talk about how it was fascinating that the terminology that was used for the most part was how do you live with the disease, but something inside me had a Google search of reversing diabetes. And those were the medical professionals that I came in contact with, Dr. Bonner, Dr. Esselton, Dr.
Yes.
Greger, this whole team of people who, although they were hidden in plain sight, it wasn't until I started to lose my sight that I was able to see that there was another way to go.
Beautiful allegory. What did you think at the time was happening to your body? You just thought this is genetics?
Yes, combination. I remember sitting in the doctor's office and the doctor said, "You're diabetic." Part of me said at first, well, you knew this was coming. You knew that you get older. All of the elders in your community, they're all diabetic. They all take the same medicine. You knew that this was part of the life of getting older, and you knew that it was coming. It wasn't until he stated that, you're going to lose your sight and you're going to be on medicine the rest of your life, that I said, wait a minute. I didn't sign up for that part of the diabetes. And we often look at diabetes as inevitability. And we actually sweeten the term diabetes in our community, the communities of color, where she has a little sugar. We make it sound not as detrimental. And so a wake-up call that, no, I am not going to go down this road without a fight. That mother said, don't ever let anything that's not human beat you, and I'm not going to allow diabetes to beat me.
And that is what this summit is all about, that misconception that we have entered into a route where you bow your head and abide by the medical rule or the perceived medical rule, and there's no way out.
Right.
But you become a supply chain for all the people who are making sales.
So true. And I think about my days as a police officer. New York City used to experience a high level of crime, and we actually had an industry around the defeatist attitude that crime was always going to be here. We had devices to protect ourselves, and that is how healthcare is. We've surrendered. We've built these entire industry clusters around you will be sick the rest of your life. Now, when you look at
prison,
right, exactly, right. That's exactly what it is. It's a private prison, and when you look at particularly those who are getting older in our country, these over 65 population is increasing 3 times the rate as other groups. When you look at that, and when you look at we're spending 80 cents on the dollar for chronic diseases in this country, just looking at diabetes, 30 million Americans, 84 million are pre-diabetic. So they're actually on the bench waiting to get into the game of a healthcare crisis. 7 million were like me, undiagnosed, didn't know they were diabetic. So the pharmaceutical industries and our healthcare industries, they are just really treating these symptoms that really our healthcare crisis is not sustainable. We cannot continue traveling down this road.
Exactly. And the expenses are increasing. And when Medicare for All is suggested, we assume that we're going to have the same procedures, the same medications, the same endless treatments, the management of diseases go on forever. Whereas along with that needs to go, and that's what we're doing here, along with that needs to go the self-healing and the healing of the planet as a concept that overreaches. Now, I wanted to ask you, how does...
I'm sorry for cutting you off, but what you said is so important. It's amazing that it's all together. The healing of the planet, the fires in the Amazon, those are not natural disasters. It is based on our overconsumption of meat. So what we're doing to Mother Nature, we're doing it to our mothers as well. When we start destroying the planet, we're also destroying ourselves. And so we need to see the holistic approach of how we must live in unison with nature and live in unison with ourselves.
Exactly. And that's so beautifully said again, when we see the Amazon burning, we don't make that connection that burning down the forest is to make room to grow pesticide-ridden, genetically modified corn and other crops that are poisoning the waters in the region that we then feed to factory animals, which we then feed to people via the supermarket. So that connection is something that often is not made. And thank you for stopping me there and bringing that up. And what happens? How come there isn't more hoopla about, what happened in your body? Describe what happened the moment you said, let me try this.
Right, and it was amazing. I remember speaking to Dr. Esselton, and he was explaining to me about how a plant-based diet, and I was like, what's wrong with this guy? I'm telling you about my site, you telling me about don't eat a hot dog. And something in me said, Eric, just try it.
Mm-hmm.
And when I returned to the city, I looked in my fridge after hearing his lecture and his conversation, and I realized for the first time, I don't have anything healthy in here. Everything in my fridge was processed. I looked at my pantry, it was completely processed. I looked at my snacks around my countertop, they were all processed. I started reading the labels, and I said, this is what he was talking about. I didn't realize my consumption of processed food. And so after having a large garbage bag and just emptying my entire refrigerator and emptying my pantry and throwing out all my snacks, 3 weeks later, my vision cleared up after going through a whole food plant-based diet. 3 months later, my nerve damage went away. My ulcer went away with no medicine. My blood pressure normalized. My cholesterol normalized. Everything normalized after 3 weeks for the vision, 3 months for the nerve damage and all the other things, my A1C reversal. And it was so fast. It was as though my body was just saying, feed me so I can work for you instead of against you. And in fact, we were doing just the opposite.
That is so cool. And yes, I've said it many times. It takes 20, 30 years to destroy a body to the extent, and then it takes only weeks to restore it.
Right.
Or a few months. It's amazing what this body does.
It really is. And it's not just the Eric Adams story. One can't say, well, this is something that happened to you. That is not true, because mom was diabetic for 15 years, 7 years on insulin. When she switched over to a whole food plant-based diet, mom was off of insulin in 2 months.
Wow. Yeah. And I'm sure you've seen.
And she's 80 years old.
Awesome. I love it. Yeah. I wish I could have worked harder. I gave my dad an extra year, but then his second wife just wouldn't keep him on the track. So
that's why your
thing.
relationships inside your household, we should not only see a person as a partner because they're physically appealing, they must be internally appealing to understanding of living a holistic whole life. And that's so important.
Your assistant is beeping me that we got to wind up. I still want to put one question in though. What are you emphasizing in your work as borough president for schools and kids and the next generation?
Right. We are so excited. We're doing some amazing things that many people thought they were impossible, and they're seeing the possibility. We moved the city to have stop purchasing processed meat and serving to our children in schools. We're going to have a 50% beef reduction in the city, and I think eventually we're going to go even further. We have meatless Mondays in our schools, meatless Mondays in our hospitals.
Paul McCartney, his team was on my first online conference.
Love it. And we are doing things around showing young people how to grow food, because we have to start to really fertile the ground and plant the seeds so we can produce the right crop, our children in the future. And it's about educating them, showing the connection between climate change and what we consume every day, and empower them to know what type of world they want to live in. And so we're excited about the initiatives. We're looking at all of our city agencies to tell them, look at the food you're serving. Are we feeding the crises?
Yeah. Or are we empowering a new generation?
Yes.
And my very last question is, because I'm so thrilled, you're such an extraordinary gentleman. Will you marry me?
Now, I noticed you have some goodies here.
I have, I brought you some of my product line, which currently is not in the stores. This is at the Hippocrates Health Institute. It's a crunchy veggie burger bite.
Interesting.
And this is a carrot cracker, and this is, I opened them so that you don't have to make so much noise.
Do you do the?
And this is a blueberry chocolate mousse. So this is a very
Wow,
fine.
this is really good. Now, how does one get?
But try a little piece of that. At the moment, I only do private orders, except for Hippocrates gets these, but they have a little store that has them.
Wow. Love
And
it.
that is a cashew dream cheese, a smoky cashew dream cheese.
May I try a little?
You have to go to the edge because the center is frozen. Yes.
Okay. You froze it so you could.
Yeah, you have to take a little more. Go ahead. Don't worry about it.
That is really good.
So
really good. And what do we have here?
Blueberry chocolate mousse, or this is multi-berry actually. So it has a bunch of berries and nuts and raisins and.
Wow. Can you purchase this online now?
Yes, I'll make you some.
Okay.
And currently we are not in operation because we had to close our factory for lack of financing. The food industry is a very tricky business these days.
Yes.
So, but my next plan is $7 million for a new factory and then really produce. That's probably.
This is really good stuff. So now this stays in the fridge and this stays in the fridge, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And these don't have.
This
and
is
yes,
really good.
You may take them to your next appointment.
Yes, I am. Thank you very much. Real pleasure. Good luck to you. And I'm sure we'll see each other again.
I hope so. And thank you for bearing with me being late and all of that.
That's okay.
It's beautiful to be here. And yeah, I would love to do more work together with the city. So when you need me, call me.
Yes.
All right. We are going to cut this off. Bye, everybody. See you next time. All right. Now.